Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving straight into the mechanical engine room of decentralized finance to break down exactly how liquidity pools operate under the hood. We're moving past all that surface-level hype to really understand the actual math and mechanics powering billions of dollars in daily trading volume. Here is the quick roadmap for our analysis today. 1. CEX risks versus DEX solutions. 2. Evolution of DEX technology. 3. AMM mechanics and liquidity. 4. The Forex price impact rule. And 5. Impermanent loss and security.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, CEX risks versus DEX solutions.
So, centralized exchanges kind of operate as a black box. You surrender your private keys, and honestly, you assume all the platform risk, like freezing or outright failure. But on the flip side, decentralized exchanges, or DEXs, act more like a transparent glass engine. You hold onto your keys, and trades execute via clear, transparent smart contracts right on the blockchain. It is a total, fundamental shift in custody.
Moving on to Section 2, evolution of DEX technology.
You might be surprised to know the decentralized concept actually kicked off way back in 2014. The Counterparty and BitShares protocols introduced the very first on-chain asset issuance and order books. Revolutionary? Absolutely. But it was pretty early. By 2016, EtherDelta launched smart contract-based trading on Ethereum, the first real generation of DEXs. But, they really suffered from low liquidity and a pretty clunky user experience. The actual game changer? 2018. That is when Uniswap V1 launched and introduced the Automated Market Maker, or AMM model. And that specific innovation is what truly became the engine of modern DeFi.
Which brings us to Section 3, AMM mechanics and liquidity.
Okay, the real magic here is the constant product formula. It's super simple but incredibly powerful. X times Y equals K. This is literally the mathematical transmission that dictates exactly how every single decentralized trade is priced today. Think about it. There are no traditional order books here. Instead, X and Y represent the reserves of two different tokens sitting together in a liquidity pool. And K? Well, that's a constant value that never ever changes during a trade. Because K has to remain constant, if you take some X out of the pool by buying it, you're mathematically forced to put enough Y back into the pool to keep the whole equation balanced. It forces price adjustments automatically, based entirely on the size of the trade. Let's see how this actually plays out in a real-world scenario with an ETH and USDC pool. Imagine an initial pool with 1,000 ETH and 1 million USDC. If you multiply those together, it gives us our constant K of 1 billion. At this starting point, the price is exactly 1,000 USDC per ETH. Now, say a trader comes in with a relatively small trade of 200 USDC. The formula adjusts. The pool gains 200 USDC, and the trader gets about 0.2 ETH. The price barely even moves. It stays right around that 1,000 USDC per ETH mark. But watch what happens with a massive trade of 50,000 USDC. The K constant steps in and forces a major adjustment. The USDC reserve jumps to 1,050,000, and the ETH reserve drops significantly. To keep K perfectly locked at 1 billion, the trader gets mathematically fewer ETH than they might expect. Basically, they suffer slippage. The takeaway? The larger the trade relative to the size of the pool, the higher the price spikes.
Let's dive deeper into this mathematical extreme in Section 4, the Forex price impact rule. Let's break down the mechanics of this Forex rule step by step. Picture a setup where a pool has exactly 1,000 VIN tokens and 1,000 USDT. Starting price? A nice, even 1 USDT per VIN. Now, enter the big trade. Let's say a buyer decides to purchase exactly half of the pool's entire token supply, so 500 VIN. Because of that constant product math we just talked about, to keep K constant, that buyer has to inject a massive amount of USDT into the pool. Specifically, they must add another 1,000 USDT. So what's the result? The new pool ratio becomes 500 VIN to 2,000 USDT. If you divide 2,000 by 500, the new price is exactly 4 USDT per VIN. Just by purchasing exactly half of the available base tokens, the asset's price dynamically surges exactly 4 times higher. For anyone trading, this highlights absolutely why liquidity depth is so crucial to avoid taking a massive hit on slippage.
Finally, let's cover Section 5, impermanent loss and security. So, while being a liquidity provider fuels this whole engine, they face a really unique mathematical threat called impermanent loss. This kicks in when the prices of the two tokens in the pool diverge sharply from their initial ratio. When you eventually withdraw your liquidity, you might actually find you have less fiat value than if you had simply held the tokens safely in your own wallet. Sure, the standard DEX fee is usually around 0.3%, but frankly, those standard fees alone just aren't always enough to protect liquidity providers from this inherent mathematical risk.
To try and solve this, the YFSX dual token protocol is a really fascinating case study. Instead of that standard 0.3%, YFSX charges a 3% fee on every single transaction, whether it's a transfer, a buy, or even adding liquidity. But here's the clever part. 0.3% of that fee is automatically burned, which creates a nice deflationary effect, while a massive 2.7% is heavily rerouted directly back to the liquidity providers. This essentially builds a really robust defensive buffer against that impermanent loss.
Similarly, the VIN token architecture takes a highly targeted approach here too. It slices up its 2% fee by automatically burning a 0.3% fraction to aggressively reduce the overall supply, and then delivers the remaining 1.7% straight into the pockets of the pool providers.
What's great is that these dual token architectures actually unlock a clear step-by-step strategy for active liquidity management. Step 1, you deploy capital into high-yield pairs like YFSX or VIN. Step 2, you allow the protocol to automatically route those heavy 1.7 to 2.7% transaction fees directly to your position. And Step 3, reinvest those yields to generate compound interest that can vastly outpace any potential impermanent loss. You're basically upgrading yourself from just a regular user to an actual owner of the exchange, earning continuous dividends that are automatically written right into the blockchain. But listen, we have to talk about security, because none of these cool financial mechanics matter at all if the platform isn't safe. When you're evaluating a new DEX, you really need to follow a strict step-by-step checklist, using things like the CertiK audits of YFSX and VIN as your gold standard. First, always verify deep code security audits from top-tier firms. Second, look for a 100 out of 100 security rating. Third, explicitly confirm there are 0 smart contract vulnerabilities. And finally, check that there are absolutely no hidden permissions or backdoors in the code. That is exactly how you protect your funds from scams and ensure your assets actually stay yours.
Which brings us to a really compelling final thought. When transparent mathematics and audited smart contracts replace traditional corporate middlemen, the fundamental relationship between a user and an exchange changes forever. As automated code completely eliminates that centralized black box, my question to you is this: are you ready to become the owner of the